Hi, yeah. So here we are gathered together in this international group, in this international Zoom call, um, to discuss how does the information come in and how does it work out for you, and to look at that and investigate it within our own mediumship, and to see how that would work out, because really, if I go back to when I was learning mediumship, I just thought everything was just one big energy thing. It was massive. I think I even explained it to myself as being white, and it'd probably be the source, or the greatness. And I thought, when I was starting my mediumship back then, I thought, I think it's all coming from the same place. And what I realized when I started developing was, like, that, yeah, no, actually, it doesn't just come from one place. It comes from different places. There's different energy people in the spirit world, and you have loved ones, and you have guides, and you have inspirers, and you have your own soul. And the importance of listening to your own soul, and knowing that, a lot of people say, oh, I listen to my guides, but I'm like, don't forget that information of your own soul, because it's had many lifetimes. It's had many, it's got so much information. And if we contact that, it's amazing what wisdom we can find in our own soul. And so I was like, on my development journey, I was like, wow, this is good. So I don't need to just listen to my guides, but I need to listen to my soul as well. And, of course, we have the great spirit, the source, the God source, and also an inspiration of energy. And we have the spirit world, and we also have, I think now, when you look at it, we have the collective consciousness, which I've even tested and connected to. So there's many different things and places we can connect to, and the art of communicating, with the spirit world is making that connection deeper. Okay. I
Yeah,
think that's where we're starting.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, when I started, I was just clueless. Maybe some of you, you were in that same boat with me. I was absolutely clueless to what was happening or why it was happening, how it was happening. I just knew that information was coming. And I think for me, the biggest turning point for me was that realization that my soul plays a huge part in this work that we do as mediums. And I remember I remember I got scolded once, and by my mentor, before she became my mentor. And I was scolded because she, in a kind way, obviously, we were supposed to get up and speak about somebody in the group, give an inspirational talk about this person. And the assignment was given right before we left for break. And then during break, we were supposed to come up with what it was we were going to say about this person who I knew nothing about and only had just met. And when I stood up to speak, I became very, very emotional. And I didn't understand what was going on. And I blamed it on the spirit world. And I got corrected very quickly that it was not the spirit world that was causing me to become emotional as I was speaking about this lady. And I just kind of looked at her like, what do you mean? Where is this coming from? And she says, that's your soul rising. And when your soul rises, that's the effect it can have, because you're doing the work of your soul. And when you do that inspirational speaking, whether it's about somebody else or whatever it may be, your soul rises to that. And sometimes that can create that emotion, because the emotion comes with it, because your soul's doing what it's meant to do. And it really was a turning point. That was at the very beginning of my journey. Then, of course, I ended up doing the mentorships with her, and that even continued, so that we had to develop our soul, not just the mediumship. Is that what you were getting at, Jason?
Yeah, because the greatest gift we have in mediumship is our own soul. The greatest gift we have, like we have about these six senses, but the greatest gift we have is our own soul. The whole power of our own soul that's the ignition key that will start mediumship. That's the ignition key. That's got everything in it. You know,
Right.
how we communicate with the spirit is through energy. Is through an energy exchange, and that soul ignition and believing in that, that's like the battery. That's what makes it all happen. And I was getting at that, but also I think another turning point, Kate, in the mediumship was like I got learned, you know, quite a long time ago in the Alpha Finley, and there used to be a style of mediumship where you'd be like, you've got to get as much evidence as possible. So you probably have to get 10 different types of evidence, and then you'd probably have to point to someone and say, I'm going to you. Or you'd give 10 different points of evidence that was really, really specific. And then one person in the whole audience would understand it. And so I got good at that. But I something in my own soul thought there has to be a different way to working than only just giving evidence, because sometimes I felt, you know, with the amount of pictures that was coming through, I felt I was just a fax machine.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, another bit and another bit and another bit. And so I missed the key communication of blending from my soul to soul. And I'd obviously done a few years, at least three years, developing and training in Arthur Findlay, in Hanover, and in different places, and in Holland. And then when I came to do the mentorship with Kay, the thing that Mavis could do for me, and that was just awakening to the point of, hold on, but your own soul also has something, a communication. And not only does your soul have a communication, but the spirit world aren't just a piece of information. The spirit world are people.
Right.
They're just living and breathing. They were living and breathing people, and they are now, and not just an energy form, but people. So why not treat them as people?
Mm.
So that art of communication that we're talking about, my mediumship changed into communicating in a loving way with spirit. Not just say, you know, tell me how this happened, tell me how that happened, tell me how this happened, how did you pass? All that's it. No, it was now we're going to communicate. Now we're really going to communicate on a soul to spirit soul level. And that was for me an eye opener. Okay.
Yeah. And you know, I was, my very first circle in my little town in England, I was given that shopping, I felt it was a shopping list, and I was told I had to get their death, the age of their death, what their work was. Is this what you're referring to, Jason?
Yes.
You had
Yes.
to get all this specific kind of information. And that never really worked with me. I couldn't, it messed me up, because what happened was I was so focused on making sure that I got all those little bits that they wanted me to get, that I allowed my mind to come in, and therefore there was this disruption. So it just didn't work. And I didn't know anything. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know anything. So I put all my trust in the lady that was running the circle, and she was a brilliant medium. I mean, she was really, really good. So I believed everything that she said, and took it on board. But yeah, you have to, I kind of threw it out. She never said anything to me about it, but I just threw that list away. I said, I can't do this. This isn't the right way of doing it. And the moment that I just surrendered and let that go, I allowed spirit to come in and work in a different way, the information came, but it was the information that the spirit world wanted to give. And I think that's part of that soul to soul connection, because then I wasn't reaching and grabbing, but I was actually working with the spirit. I was actually blending in with their soul, and I could feel their emotions and feel what was going on there. And I would realize that a lot of that stuff that was on that shopping list wasn't important to them, the spirit communicator.
Exactly.
You know, so yeah.
I had the same thing. Of course, in training in the beginning, having some sort of a list to say, okay, what sort of information can come through is good to get you going, to get you started. But then
Yes,
there comes a point in development when you can say, hold on, I'm going to let go of that list, and I'm just going to let spirit communicate. What do spirit want to communicate about?
right.
And what does spirit want to say? Because I've done quite a few demonstrations in my time, and I've had spirit coming in, and I'm like, and I just find myself sometimes going into my head, and I'll be going, oh, don't I need to bring a little bit more information? And do we need to be talking about the passing? And suddenly I heard the lady behind me saying, but I want to talk about something else. I want to talk how good I looked. And I'm like, oh, okay. So it was like, okay, so spirit has a personality here, right? And that's what we forget, because what does spirit want to talk about? What do they want to talk about?
Yeah.
And what can be confusing is like we can get caught up too much in the evidence. Of course, evidence is needed to find a recipient in a demonstration, so that you can just find which one it is, unless you're going direct. But then there needs to be some sort of evidence there that they believe, oh, it's for me, you know. But what we forget is the spirit world already know this.
Mm-hmm.
They already know that their loved one, their daughter, is sitting there, and they already know it. And they already know that if I say this, that, and this, then they'll find her.
Yeah.
We will connect, and we will be reunited with love with each other again in a demonstration form. And so we forget that as mediums. We forget that the spirit world already do this. They've been doing this for thousands of years. And, you know, we might be going, oh, I might have been doing it for 12 or 13 or 15 and it's, that's nothing compared to thousands of years, right? Or maybe millions of years, right? Since when there is a thought that Jesus was also a medium, and then you think, well, actually, you know, that you're going back in time where there's so many possibilities where spirit have communicated. They know how to do this.
Right.
And we make ourselves so worked up about, oh, but I need to get the name, and I need to get this, and I need to get this, and I need to get, and what do? We block spirit's communication. So we block it with our own thoughts, like, oh, right, I need to, I've mentioned that, now I need to get this, and I need to get this, and otherwise I'm not good enough. Hold on a minute. Let go of I'm not good enough, and just know that you're good enough for the spirit world.
Yeah.
And when you do that, that's when things open up.
Right. So, Jason, let's talk a little bit about when we are making that communication. I have lots of people who think or they feel that when they're communicating with the spirit world, that it's all coming from their guide, and that they're communicating with the spirit communicators' guides. But that's not actually how that works. When you make that contact, hang on, we've got a question here.
Yeah. Should we do questions just after we finish this intro? Should we go into that? Do questions in a little bit?
Yeah, we will. Okay? Yeah.
Carolyn, we'll open it to questions later, and we'll do a question run.
But go on ahead and put your questions up. That's fine to do that. And then they're there and they're ready.
Just get them in there, put your questions in, and we'll get to them. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's my understanding that when I make a connection or a link with somebody in the spirit world, I'm actually I'm making a connection with that spirit communicator. My guides may be in the background, facilitating and working behind the scenes, so to say, but I'm not communicating with my guides. I'm communicating with the spirit communicator and the recipient. That's my trinity that I have going there. Do you agree with that?
It sounds like you're talking about modern mediumship, Kay, because in the 19th century, they used to believe you had to first communicate with the gatekeeper and your
Yeah.
guide, and then your gatekeeper would open the gate and let the people in, and then they would stand behind you guide, and then you would communicate to your guide, and your
It's
guide would
not that
communicate to the
complicated.
person, and then they would come back, and then your guide would give you the information. But
Right.
modern mediumship has a different philosophy where we can make direct contact with the loved one in spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And I know Harry Edwards wrote a little bit about that, even back in his day, how we can make direct contact with the spirit world. And of course, guides and inspirers are great, but it's all about, you can make direct contact with that person and bring a person through in such a beautiful, loving way.
And if you think about it, if you're blending and you have a very strong connection with your spirit communicator, that's how it is that you start to take on their little body movements or little things that they used to do or say. That's how that works, because you've blended so well with them that if you're on a stage, you might start walking like them, or you might start doing something like this that they do. It's because you're blending and your connection with them is so strong that you begin to take on those characteristics. Whereas if you're only communicating with your guide, that sort of thing's not going to happen.
No,
You know?
that's not going to happen. And I know it used to be years and years ago that we're talking about. They used to feel that that was the safe way to do it, but really, this is the safe way to do it, and it's
Right.
the more common, because it's like, let's say we were having a communication, Kay, and you were in the spirit world, and I say to you, hold on, I'm going to speak to my guide. Pam's going to communicate to you. Where did you used to live? And then Pam's going to communicate. It'll become a different sort of communication. But if I connect with you and connect with you in a beautiful spiritual way, then there's going to be a lovely connection there where spirit is going to bring through more evidence, more information, and like you said, even that you get the mimics of the spirit
Right.
world happening.
Right. Yeah. So the blending is quite important, and understanding where that communication is coming from, and that our guides are there. They're facilitators. They're like overseers in a way. They're just making sure that everything is going as it should go. Now, does that mean that your guides never ever interfere?
I've never had them interfere with a communication at all. Never.
No, but
Um,
they're there if you should need them.
they're there, and whenever I've connected to my guides, I've done it loads of times, it's always been like in love and encouragement and lifting you up in such a way, and they've always spoken positively, because some people think, oh, my guide's giving me a telling off. I said, no, that's not your guide, that would be your mind, because guides, they're obviously in a higher frequency, and they have the bigger vision, they know what's going on. So
Right.
they would always bring information in love and encouragement and inspiration, and
Right.
leave it up to us to make the decision where we're going to go.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But they do play an important role in the work that we do. But I see my guide more so as a facilitator, someone that helps to bring in, Mavis used to talk about this as well, that they work behind the scenes, and they know far in advance who you're going to be working with mediumistically, and that they're like, what's the word I'm looking for? They're like market for us. They're like, they make those connections for us. They help bring those clients to us, and they know well in advance who we're going to be working with. and when we're going to be working with them, which I
Yeah,
think is
and
really fascinating.
that's really fascinating. And what also is really fascinating is the person that you bring through. Let's say you got a one-to-one sitting and someone turns up, and you've got someone turning up at 2 o'clock. The person in the spirit world has already checked you out. They've already seen your
Absolutely.
mediumship. They've checked you out. They've seen your mediumship. They've spoken to other people in the spirit world. They thought, I want to use this medium because this medium's going to bring my message across.
Right.
And that's something else that in mediumship we don't think about. We think all this pressure to get it right, when if we listen and we're quiet enough and there's less of us there and more of spirit coming in, then there's going to be a much better blending message and communication.
Right. I don't think we give the spirit world enough enough credit for the work that they're doing behind the scenes, and if we just stop and think about all that it is that they are doing and how they are helping us, I think we would look at things a little bit differently. I think we would surrender just a little bit more than what we already are, to make all this happen, because they really do a lot of work behind the scenes there. But we're kind of getting off topic of what we were going to talk about.
So no, it's all communication, Kate. It's all
Yeah,
the
I
art of
know. I do
communication. The art of communication. Yeah, well, a lot of people would say, like, spirit is telling me, they'll be like, oh,
that. Yeah.
spirit is telling me this and spirit is telling me that. And I'll be like, okay, investigate. Who is spirit? Who is spirit? And that's for me the information. If you say, oh, that's my guide Arthur, or Jolene, or whatever your guide's name is, she's a country singer, by the way. No, only joking. But if you'd said, oh yeah, that's Jolene telling me that, then you know where the information's coming from. But when you say spirit, and it's like, I remember when spirit is telling me is like this massive great thing, and spirit is like this great, great white thing is giving me the information. It's nicer to actually find out where's the information coming from.
Yeah.
Because in the spirit world we have inspirers that have inspired scientists. They don't know where the information's coming from, but they've been inspired. We've got philosophers that have inspired philosophy. We've got if you think about physical mediumship, like all the chemists that have worked with the chemistry to create that sort of mediumship. We've got all these different people in the spirit world that are there, and it's nice to know, like, who's bringing the message, who is spirit. And I think there was a lady in our group, Kay, and she thought everything was coming from spirit, and she said, spirit's saying this and spirit's saying that. And Mavis looked at her and said, that's your soul.
Right. It was probably me, Jason. It was probably me saying that.
Maybe. And
I really believed that. I really believed that.
Yeah, but that is so important, because people forget the essence of your own soul, and the wisdom that's in it is so amazing.
Absolutely.
Then when you say, oh, these wise words, where are they? They must be coming from spirit. But why can't those wise words be coming from you?
I'll tell another story. This was another Mavis story with me. We used to always have to do inspired speaking. They would just give us a topic, and we'd stand up and have to be inspired and talk about it. And I love doing that sort of thing. And I could always felt spirit very closely with me. And I do have my main guide does work with me in that way. And I remember one day I was just going, and then all of a sudden it just went blank in front of the whole class. And I spoke with Mavis about that, why that happened, because I mean, there was nothing. I was really going good, and then nothing. And so I spoke with her afterwards about that. And I said, why did that happen? I said, I could feel spirit there, and then they were gone, and and there was nothing. And she just kind of, how she give that little quirky little smile, like she did something. And she just said to me, she goes, that's because I told him to back off. She goes, you need to start speaking from your soul. She says, you have all the wisdom that you need and it's within your soul. And she said, I've asked them to step away from you. And that's going to force you to have to start speaking from your soul.
Yeah.
And I was
Yeah.
like,
That's a great, I mean, that's a
that was
great,
like,
yeah. What a great moment, you know, because like it's really easy to say, oh, my guide tells me this and my guide tells me that and guides tells me that, and you say, oh no, hold on, and that I used to like say, oh, I think my guides inspired me to get this book, or my guides inspired me to do these courses, and my guides inspired me to do this, and all these things that I used to think, you know, my guide was the great one, but in the end, learning more about spiritualism and learning more about the own soul and the purpose of it, it's in the name guide, which guide is inspirer, guide, someone that will inspire you with ideas, but it's your choice and personal responsibility to do something with it.
yeah.
So we can't blame my guide. My guide said, you know, go this way, go that way, turn right, turn left when you're driving, but it's your choice whether you're going to turn left or turn right within this lifetime or this experience.
Right.
And that's the thing. That's your soul's knowledge. Yeah, soul's knowledge.
That's your soul's knowledge. And for me, what I've learned through these years is the whispers of the soul. They're there, and you know, sometimes you can get it confused with, did I psychically get that, or did spirit bring that to me, or was it the soul that brought that to me? And I feel that the whisper is just so gentle and so subtle that, you know, you just have to stop and listen to it. It's a fine line for me to determine what, you know, where'd that come from? I got it. Where's it coming from? It's a fine line. And for a long time I would go, thank you to my guide, my soul, or my psychic abilities, wherever that came from. Just thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And that's the thing, right? The psychic ability is your soul, right? It's your soul's ability, and to be grateful for that, because it's such a beautiful mediumship faculty that we have. And it's like, to give credit to that, I say, I got that from my soul. So, you know, now that we're further in our development, Kay, we know we're getting this from the spirit world, we're getting this from our soul, so we're getting this psychically. We know that when we're getting it from mother, we're getting it from father, we're getting it from loved ones, we're getting it from brothers, sisters. We know all that because we know where it's coming from. We know when it's coming from a guide, we know when it's coming from an inspirer. And we know when this is just a connection to some consciousness that's all consciousness, and it feels like it's dripping in, and it's just inspiration. And you know, you could say, and sometimes you don't know where that's coming from, and in that inspiration you say, oh, isn't that a wonderful, beautiful thing you can bring, like in a church service?
Right.
It's beautiful. But then we mustn't forget the inspiration of our own soul.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So we've got some questions coming in, Kay. So that's good. So if anyone's got any questions, get them coming in, and we can go for question time.
So Carolyn, was your question, the first one when you posted, is that question, what's the difference between a guide and an inspirer?
Well, my first question actually was about spirit communication, and I'm just a general question. Have you guys noticed when somebody steps through for the very first time, their very first connection with the medium being you? And is there a difference in, like, because it's their first time, they don't know how to do this? I mean, have you experienced that, or even someone that just isn't a strong communicator in spirit, that wasn't a strong communicator in the physical?
Yeah. For me, what I usually can sense that as the medium, that I've got somebody coming in that is either not sure about this, or possibly maybe was a person in life that was very shy. And so then I can just feel that they're just kind of easing their way in here and they're kind of holding back just a little bit. So as I'm on one side of me, I'm still communicating with my recipient, but at the same time, I'm also communicating with the spirit communicator, building that trust with them and bringing them in. I've even had communicators where I've had to give them pep talks that you can do this, we can do this, we're in this together, just come forward and we're going to work together, we're going to make this happen. I've even, I've had to do those kinds of things with communicators as well. But I've also had communicators, I use my mom as an example. When my mom passed in March last year, she came through within about 30 minutes after passing, like she'd been communicating her whole life. I was just like going, what's this? You just, but she could. And I've had other spirit communicators who were the same way. It was their first time and they had absolutely no problem. But Jason, I think that part of that is the spirit communicator does kind of come around us, gets to know our energy, maybe watches us from afar where we don't see them, because they know that they're going to be working with us. And I believe that our guides will work with them as well and show them, this is how Kay works, this is how Jason works, this is how you can do that. But you do still have those people that the communicators that aren't sure or are struggling.
Exactly.
And as a medium, you have to got to work with them.
Yeah, you do. I have, in my own experience, communicating with communicators that come through for the first time, like you can feel it on their energy. They might be a little bit standoffish. They might be, checking you out first. And whenever I feel that, I always say to them, just come closer. We'll do this together. Let's do this together. I'll work with you. You work with me. We'll do this together. I'll support you. I'm here for you. And then it changes. So those first time communicators are really important, because if you get too bossy with them, they'll just walk away. They'll be like, oh no, this is too much. I can't handle this, So as when you have that ability to feel and sense that they're first time or shy or didn't communicate very well, it's like when you bring through people that have been mentally ill, and then they come through for the first time, and it's like, they sometimes they can be difficult at coming through. But I've had people come through the first time, just like Kay. My brother passed to spirit. He was within a few hours with me. I've had friends pass to spirit. They've been the same day. They've arrived and said, hi, I'm here. And I'm like, okay. So the possibility of spirit communicating has been very well. And I've always wished them a pleasant time or a pleasant journey in the spirit world when they've come to visit me. So what we believe is first time communication cannot take place unless they've been in the spirit world for a long time. That's not true. They can communicate just as well. I think it's really easy. It's an easy way out for mediums when they say, now, I think, how long they've been in the spirit world? Oh, 6 months. I think they need a few more months before they'll communicate. No, I think that's just them covering up that they just can't make the connection. Because the spirit world can communicate every time. It's the only thing is, are we picking up those sort of communicators? So the first thing we love as mediums is big, strong men, big, strong women, lots of information that we feel confident. But what about the quiet ones? What about the ones that are shy? What about the ones that were introverted? What about the ones that didn't have much to say? They all need a chance to communicate as well. And that's when you can open up your sensitivity to either first-time communicators or to communicators that may struggle to communicate. And then your guide will fill them in. I've had gentlemen that can't talk about their feelings, so the guides will say to them, oh, speak to Jason through pictures. He'll understand.
Okay. That was my next question about different clairs.
That's all right, Carolyn, because I'm psychic. Um,
I figured that. I figured that one.
but
So they'll whatever strongest their clair is. Like if their strongest clair is, clairvoyance, then they'll impress pictures upon you.
exactly, there's a lot of males in the spirit world that had difficult expressing their feelings, so they will show you in pictures, they will show you in words. And there's a lot of gentlemen there that they love the facts, they want to talk about the facts. So that's when I talk about the facts, when they want to talk about facts. But then you have a lot of ladies in the spirit world, and they want to share the communication, they want to share the love, they want to share and then they'll come through that clairsentience. And they may be really good talkers, and they may even whisper in your ear and you can hear them, because some ladies like to communicate that way. And that's just knowing how does the communication comes in is different for every communicator.
Right. So you have to be open to allow the spirit communicators to communicate with you in whichever way works for them. So, I don't get caught up on that that I use clairvoyance. I don't get caught up on my clairs. I have them all. They're all there. Some I use more than the others, but I don't want to get caught up on that. I want to be open and allow the spirit to come in and work with me in whatever way works. So, but just to go back just to your question, Carolyn, I believe that when we have those communicators, as Jason and I were talking about, the shy ones, the reluctant ones, the ones that are going, well, I don't know about this kind of thing, or even the new communicator, that's when we have to draw upon our own compassion. That's when we have to really see them as a human, as a person, and not some entity, but this is a real person that's stepping forward. Maybe they don't have a body like us, but they're still a spirit, just like we are a spirit. And you have to use that compassion and allow your compassion to reach out to them and work with them in that way. And in the same thing, I've seen spirit communicators who have flipped that and have been the cheerleader for the medium who is learning or struggling. And this I've watched this before, where somebody is bringing in somebody that my mom, for an example, I was bringing in my mother, and the medium was brand new and struggling, and my mom was like, come on, you can do it, we're gonna work together. And she even picked up on that. She goes, I feel she's cheering me on. I'm like, she is. She's like, she's rooting for you, she wants to make this work. And that was, only like the 5th or 6th time my mom had ever been through.
Yeah.
But she flipped that. So spirit will do that as well, especially for those that are just starting out.
Absolutely. So, yeah, I know my grandmother is someone that loved this. So she loves turning up in any development circle, and she loves it. I mean, when I first started going to the Arthur Findlay College, I think she got onto the podium of the Arthur Findlay podium about 6 times the first week I was there. Every circle that we sat and every class we were in, she was coming through someone. And it was like, oh, right. So she's coming through here now as well. And all different aspects of her life. And it just shows you, that when we're talking about communication with the spirit world, they have a whole lifetime to talk about. So my grandmother knew about that, and she'd obviously thought, well, I'll talk about this part to that person, I'll talk about this part to that person, this part to that person. And by the end of the week, we had a whole lifespan of what she wanted to talk about. And she loves it and turns up in Spirit Circle very often.
Yeah. All right, we have another question. Do souls come reincarnate in different gender bodies, and are the spirit personalities in spirit influenced by the masculine or feminine hormones they were dealing with as gender embodies, or are these masculine and feminine energies part of spirit? I'm not sure I understand the question.
So we'll take the first part. Do people's souls come reincarnate in different gender bodies?
Sorry, it originally said come back, and then I tried to reset and put reincarnate, so it sounds a little awkward.
Okay.
Oh, so do spirit souls come back in different gender bodies, and are the spirit personalities and spirit influenced by the masculine and feminine hormones that we're dealing with in gender bodies, and are they masculine and feminine energies part of spirit? The way I experience it is, this lifetime I'm a male, and in another lifetime I was probably a female, or let's put it that way. But when I pass to the spirit world, what I leave behind is every physical aspect of myself, and my soul will go forward, and of course it will take the essence and knowledge that I've learned in this lifetime as a male, and the knowledge that I've learned in this lifetime, and then I will go to the spirit world with that knowledge. I don't feel that I would take my masculine hormones with me or have problems with that, but it may be an essence of my soul that holds on to that, that has that aspect, because we have, you know, alpha females, so you know, and that maybe just be an aspect of their soul that's like that. So I don't feel that we take the hormones with us when we get when we reincarnate and we come back down. That's not what I feel happens, and vice versa, from female and then reincarnated as a male. I don't think we take the hormones with us. I do feel though that on a soul level, that wisdom that we've learned, we carry that with us.
Yeah.
We just need to tap in. We just need to tap into that knowledge.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
We've got another question.
Andrea.
Andrew.
Actually, I actually don't have a question. I can add a little bit to Jason, because I actually do soul realignment. So I just wanted to add briefly that we all have a divine soul blueprint. So whether we were male or female, we keep carrying over our gifts and our lessons and our experiences lifetime after lifetime into this life. So I hope that clarifies.
Yeah, lovely, Angela. I think that's beautifully said. And it's nice to know that we're on the same page with that, right? Yeah. Because that knowledge and wisdom that we learn, I mean, our soul is very, you know, it can be very old. We say we have young souls, but it can be very old, and we can have many lifetimes, and we carry that knowledge. And that's when we talk about the communication with one soul is very important as well, because then we find out that what we can work with. We've also got, what is the difference between a guide and an inspirer, okay?
Well, I believe that our guides can be inspirers, but I feel that you have a guide that's with you from the moment you take your first breath to the moment you take your last breath. And that guide is what I call your main guide. Some people might say gatekeeper or guardian angel. I call him my guide. But I have other people that are in the spirit world that are around me. So I call them my team, and they come and they go. I have some that have come and stayed and been with me for a long time. And then I've got some that have come and they've disappeared, they're gone. And I feel that those that come and go come in to inspire me, to help me in one aspect or another in my lifetime. Whether that be with my mediumship or with my writing or my speaking or teaching aspects as well. They come and they inspire me in those specific areas. Yeah. And they just impress upon me.
Yes. Yeah, they do. I mean, I like that because, you know, guides, the way I see it is our guides are, you know, our main guide has been with us our whole lifetime. They've chosen to be with us our whole lifetime. And they've chose to spend this lifetime helping us with our spiritual journey, and everyone has one. You know, and not everyone listens to them, and not everyone listens to the inspiration, but everyone has one. And then if we choose to do something else within this lifetime, let's say inspired speaking, an inspirer could be someone that was a good speaker from the spirit world that says, hey, I'd like to work, I like this Jason, I'd like to work with him, his inspirational work. So that could be someone that's coming in just for that work, and that's a possibility. And I find that this is what, up until now, I've never known a loved one to be a guide, but I have been known a loved one to become an inspirer, where they've either inspired you in some aspect of your emotional work. I know when my brother passed to spirit, I was told by a medium, oh, he's helping you in his team. And I was thinking, well, what's he going to do? Because, you know, there's me thinking, well, he messed up his life, so what's he going to do in my team? But I felt so much love and compassion coming from him. He really helped me unfold that sensitivity in myself. It was like giving a gift back. And I would never have known that if I hadn't have connected and found that out myself, you know. So it's knowing about these things. So inspirers can also be, you know, great speakers, people that were spiritual that will inspire you. You know, anyone. Some people will feel that they're being inspired by angels with healing or whatever, but they're not there for the whole time. And your guide would be there for the whole time. And plus, you know, you'd have other guides. So if you're going to do a healing ability, you'll have a guide for healing that would work with you. And I have my Dr. John that works with me on my healing ability, and he really enjoys it. So that he's there to stay with that. And then I've got my main guide, which is quite similar to Kay's main guide. And we had to laugh about this because I said I call him Chief, and Kay's like, oh yeah, that's what I call mine. And it's funny because that's the connection. We wake up to, hey, there's something going on here. And we even had a time that we were talking, me and Kay, where we realized that our guides were communicating.
Yeah.
So the possibilities of that is more than what we can imagine, you know. You
also called yours Chief John, and I called mine Indian John.
Yeah, that's right. That's going back.
Because he wouldn't tell me his name, so you know, my sarcasm came out, and I said, if you're not going to tell me your name, I'm just going to call you Indian John, because John is not an Indian name.
Yeah, and that's funny because before when we were talking about this, I couldn't see my guide. I could just feel him. I thought he's a really strong man, and I'm like, what's your name? What's your name? And all I got was John. So okay, John, right? So I said, oh, it's John. And then when I saw him, I'm like, but you're First Nations. You're an Indian chief. You're a First Nations chief. Oh, well, I'll just have to call you Chief John then. And little did I know that Dr. John Gordon was in my healing team, and you know, then I have my chief that is my main guide. Yeah. So that's how we can discover just through communicating what our guides are there for. We've got another question.
Oh, good.
Is a guide of your extension of who we truly are? The guide is a remembrance of our knowing. They open that door, so to speak. So I've heard this philosophy before. They say, hey, maybe the guide is an extension of who we truly are, but maybe the guide, if you look at it in this way, I feel the guide has seen us for who we truly are. There is some people that think, oh, well, actually your own higher self could be your guide. But when I spoke to my guide and I went in a deep trance, he let me know that he was my father in a past life. So I wasn't him and he wasn't me. So that's how the connection was, and that's how I gained the knowledge of who he was. So he wasn't an extension of me, but he obviously knew what my higher self would need and what my spiritual self would need. What about you, Kay?
And well, and I'll just piggyback off of that, because my main guide, well, actually I have two guides. My main guide is an ancestor of mine who has been sharing with me my family history on the native side. And I didn't know really anything about my family history, but my mother has confirmed everything that he's given me. So we're going back like 5 generations. Now, sometimes when I speak with him, without even not even thinking, I come out and say grandfather. And I did have a reading from a tutor at the Arthur Findlay College who said to me, he was your grandfather at one point. So so it's almost like that. I didn't know that story about you, Jason, in your guide, but yeah, sometimes when I get deep in discussion with him, instead of saying chief, I just say, but grandfather. And I'm like going, where'd that come from? And it just comes out like that. My other guide that's with me all the time, she as well is an ancestor of mine who has shared with me the story of the Trail of Tears and the family, and my mom has confirmed all of that. And I call her mama because that's what she feels like to me. So I in another lifetime, in a past life regression, it was about her, and she was my mother in that past life regression.
Yeah.
Many moons ago is how they say, many moons ago, which is lifetimes.
And that's, you know, that's it's amazing, really, because there is such a fine line between the communication. If you've got a really good blending with your guide, it can feel like, oh, this must be close to my higher self, but they really do communicate to your higher self. And that's what I've known. And there was a bit onto that. Is it remembrance of our knowing? I don't think so. I think they have chosen to be with us. That's one thing that's of my experience. And do they open the door, so to speak? I do feel they open the door in the spiritual world for us. If you're into mediumship, I had a vision once of this row of people standing behind me in the spirit world, and there was my guide standing there, just helping them, you know, find the way. That was quite a nice vision to see, that possibility. So yeah, opening doors in the spirit world. I think Kay mentioned about what was it, guide marketing? You mentioned.
That was the only word that I could get.
I think you meant to say that the guides really, you know, help people communicate.
They orchestrate it.
They know how to work with you. Now, Andrea says, all my main guides are my ancestors, and they help me in different areas of my life. So there you go. So totally different individualities and totally different things. But Jenny, I did love your question, and I love the way that you put that, because it's about this that we come behind. We can think about, oh, how is that knowledge, and how can we prove that? And so I've actually had my guides come in, and I've done it with many students many times, and I've asked them to stand in different parts of the room so that people can experience them, and they can. The people can experience them as a different being and not the same as me, and totally different energy. So it's quite an amazing thing to experiment with the spirit world, and they do love to experiment when you ask them nicely.
And I remember, Jason, when I was visiting with you, and you did your trance, and you were sitting in the cabinet, and it was the only time I've ever seen you do trance, actually.
Yeah.
And I was sitting there, and I was at the front next to the cabinet, and we were all singing, and you were going into your trance, and I looked over, and there, clear as day, I could see your guide standing right there, and he just did this little nod. We made eye contact of hello.
Yeah. So totally different. And you know, so it's amazing to know that guides are there for us. That information that we receive from the spirit world is not just one bit of information. It's not all spirit. It's not all a great white matter that gives information. Through self-discovery and through training, I've managed to pinpoint my mediumship so far that I know which loved one it's coming through. I know when it's coming from a guide. I know when it's coming from the great, what I call the great inspirator, the spirit, but also when it's coming from one's own soul. And you know, don't forget about psychometry and people's auras and reading them, and where the information's coming from is just feeling where is it coming from, and how is the information coming in.
Yeah.
It's all very well to say, and just say there's a lot of people out there that will say, oh, mum's just telling me you need to look at your car and you need to do this and you need to do that. Well, and I'd say, when was the last time, when you know, when your mum was alive, when did you actually listen to what your mum said? Or when did you ever take her advice when she said you had to do something, right? So there's a lot of that in the spirit and the soul of the medium at the time that's picking up the information about the problem with the car. So it's all very well to say, you know, mum's here and she's supporting you, she's supporting you and she cares about you, but I'm picking up now psychically that there's something to do with your car that you need to check out. And that's not denying the importance of the psychic ability and what you're picking up psychically.
But as mediums, we have to be able to understand the difference of how that feels when it's coming from the spirit world, how it's coming from the soul. You have to be able to feel that and understand it, so that when you're working, you know, with like a one-on-one sitting, you're able to convey that to your sitter. This is not coming from the spirit world, but I just need to say this to you. I feel this, you know, about you. So, because it's important for them to know that, did my mom say that, or was that psychically? And you wouldn't want to mislead them and say something and them thinking, oh, that came from my mom. Well, no, I picked up on that psychically. So really do. So understanding and knowing how your own energy works and how everything works with the spirit world and with your psychic is really important.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Got something from Stephanie now. Could you discuss a bit of the process getting to know your guides? Also how you use the intention prior to or during readings?
Yeah. Well, for me, getting to know my guide was sitting every single day in silence with my guide. I tried desperately to get him to talk to me and he wouldn't. He just sat there. And I now, when I look back, I understand the importance of sitting with him in silence, because we were getting to know each other. We were learning how to blend our energies together. We were learning those kinds of things without me understanding it or knowing it at the time. But once, it was about a year after that, the first time that he spoke to me was amazing, absolutely amazing. And we've been talking every day, all day long ever since. So I had to wait a year though to get there. Yeah, but in meditation is another way. Meditation is how, in the beginning, that he started telling me the story of my family history. Now we just talk. I don't have to do the meditation. Yeah.
For me, getting to know my guides was sitting in trance and asking them to come very close and to experience them. I've experienced them in meditations, and I believe that we've got these meditations now in the Mediums Academy. We've uploaded them, so they're ready to go, where you can physically feel your guides around you. Also a meditation where you can experience it with your guide. And the trance aspect, which I did, that really opened up my connection with my guides, like feeling and sensing and seeing and getting that really close connection, and that becoming and knowing that it was this guide or my other guide or this guide. plus, you know, it's good if another medium can also see, like Kay would say, "I'll see your guide standing here." I believe, yes, that's my chief, and so that's a nice thing to remember. How do I use intention prior or during readings? Intention before a reading is I'm open to work to spirit. I do a little empowerment, a fast empowerment, which we'll probably put in the program in Mediums Academy later on. But it's like just where you quickly get into the power, just to expand it. I don't go into meditation before a reading, and then when I sit down, the moment I sit down, spirit is there. You can feel them, you're aware of them, and you can intervene with them. As for during readings, I'm more of a I just communicate with spirit, and when spirit is finished, and I feel something psychically coming in, like we talked about, we're like, oh, I say, hold on, I'm just picking up something I need to talk about you, and then I'm talking from me, and then I may switch, and that's something that I do with my students as well. Is like feel into the psychic, tell a little bit of information, then go back to mum. Say, okay, oh yeah, but then go back in to the psychic and then go back to mum, and in that way you can pendulum between the two, and it's a wonderful way to work when you know when you can get it to work, and it's a beautiful thing to practice. We've got some more questions coming in, but we were supposed to be doing an hour today.
Yeah, I know.
Maybe we can take that, because I'm really enjoying these questions that are coming in. Maybe we can take these questions that have just been asked at the end, Kay, to the next live feed, and
Yes.
because all these live feeds are going to be put on the Facebook Mediums Academy, so you can watch them in your own leisure. So next week we will be mentioning everything that you've written there, because I believe Kay will get a copy of that when she closes this in Zoom, and we shall address those questions for you next week.
Right. So I've just made a new Zoom thing that I'll be posting afterwards. So we have every Tuesday booked all the way through June at this time at 11. So I'll get that posted. If you haven't already joined Mediums Academy, please do. And everything is there, but I'll also post them on the other groups that allow me to. If you're coming from one of the other groups, I'll get that posted on there as well. And then it'll also be posted in Mediums Corner group too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll be posting them to all the groups. So if you're Mediums Academy on Facebook, we'll be posting them to Mediums Academy first, but we'll be posting them to other groups as well. So just like any Facebook Live would happen, I believe the quality in Zoom is far better.
Yeah, I feel this was better than doing a live feed. Do you guys feel that too? Because
you enjoying it, guys?
100%.
Yeah.
Much better, isn't it? I think so too.
And it's just...
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it's really good to have everyone here and have you all join us in this. So thank you for all coming from all your different parts of where you come from. If you haven't joined Mediums Academy and you'd like to stay, we're going to be putting these live feeds there every week. They'll be going into Mediums Corner. They'll be going into Mediums and Beyond is one that we're going to be doing as well. And just where we can share information about mediumship.
Right. And I just want to just say that Mediums Academy is new. It's an idea that Jason and I have had for a couple of years, but knew that it wasn't going to come to fruition until after I moved back to the States. And so we are now, like today, this is our first time we've ever done anything through Mediums Academy. So this is the beginning.
Thank you. And it's a page, not a group, right?
That's a page, yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
Somebody's asking for the link to the group. I don't know if we can chuck that in the chat here.
Yeah.
Just to let you guys know, coming up soon is going to be we're going to be doing a course, an online class. Me and Kay are going to be doing one together. I haven't got the dates with me, but I know it's about the empowerments.
18th.
The 18th, and that's going to be the empowerment, but the empowerment of yourself, the empowerment of how you empower with the spirit world, how you empower when doing the psychic ability, and how do you feel the power of where is your power going? Where is it leading you to? So a very interesting class coming up on the 18th. You'll find that in on my Facebook, Kay's Facebook, or on Medium's Corner, and we shall be posting it to Medium's Academy, which the link is now in there. Chat if you'd like to click it and join it. The questions that have been asked after that we've come to the end, we will certainly answer them next week.
Yeah. So thank you guys for coming.
Thank you so much. This was great. Thank you.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.